Hi, welcome to Pixel Affair. This is Kobe, and in today's video we are going to recreate this. Yes, so this is the main stinger for TV3, a TV station in Ghana, and you are going to create our own version from scratch. So let's get right into it. In the original video, there's a lot that's happening. So if I should drag through, you can see there are different scenes that joins together to form the whole thing. But in our case, we are going to focus from this part where the independent square actually begins to come and it moves back to reveal the TV3 logo. That's the point that we are going to try and focus on. So let's go ahead. We are going to create the logo first in Illustrator. So I have the logo downloaded on the internet, which I'll bring straight into Illustrator. And you are going to use it as a reference image. So I'll come to its layers and I'll click the drop down menu here. I can close this one and make sure I have it locked. Now we are going to create the logo, and it's made of simple shapes. So it's circle, and you can see like a semicircle here. So we are going to create the semicircle. So I'll just click here and choose ellipse tool, hold shift to scale it proportionally, and I'll come here again. I'll choose the rectangle to cut half of the circle. So now I've created a rectangle to cover some part of the circle. I'll select the two and I'll go to Windows, look for Pathfinder, and I'll subtract the rectangle from the circle. So now we have our semicircle created. So yeah, let's adjust it to fit our reference image and see what we have. So I'll hold shift here. Actually, I'll change the color to something which will be different from the other colors, and actually reduce its transparency. So I come to property and reduce the transparency. Now let's adjust it. So now we've adjusted the semicircle to fit the red part. So now we have to cut the inner part out of it. So that one, so I'll use as an ellipse to create a circle and make sure it's close to what we see. I'll adjust that one as well. So I'll reduce its transparency so I can see what's happening under there. So same way I'll adjust it. Now I've adjusted it, and same way I'll select the two and I'll come to the Pathfinder. I'll choose this one, the second one, to subtract the circle I just created from the semicircle. And now I have the red part of the logo created. So now I can make it fully transparent and actually double click here to make it red, or I can actually use the sample tool to sample the color red. So now we've created the red part. So all we have to do is to duplicate it and flip it to the green one. So I'll just right click and come to reflect. I'll select reflect, make sure it's set to 90 degrees here, and I'll choose preview to see what I'm having. So it shows me how it's actually reflecting. I'll actually click copy. So now a copy is created. I'll right click and come in here, and I'll choose come to transform, reflect again, once again reflect, and now I'll flip it on the horizontal, and now I'll hit OK. So now I've created the green part as well. Same way I cannot use the sample to sample it. So all we have to do is to create the middle part, which is the circle. So it's easy. Create another circle. Actually sample the yellow, and now we are good to go. Simple. We've created the TV3 logo. So all we are left it is to type the TV3. So I'll choose the type tool and type TV3. I'm actually going to hold shift to scale it proportionally, and I'll use come to its property, I'll change the font to Arial bold, and let's actually bring the reference layer back so that we can see what's going on. Make sure you hold shift so that when you scale it. So now we've recreated our version of the TV3 logo. So all we have to do is to export it into Cinema 4D. And to export it into Cinema 4D, it's as easy as just saving it. But before we save it, we should make sure we convert our text into outline. So select our text and right click and say create outline. And now we can go ahead and save it. So you go file, save as, and you go to our desktop. I have a folder called TV3. I'll actually save it. And now this is the most important part. We should make sure it's in Illustrator version 8. That's the version Cinema 4D easily recognizes. So I'll choose Illustrator version 8, and that's all. We will hit save and OK, and we are done with our logo. We can easily import it into Cinema 4D and continue from there. Now we have Cinema 4D open, and if you've never used Cinema 4D before, I have a video here that talks about how to navigate the interface and the viewport and how some basic stuffs are done, like generators and deformers and parent and child hierarchy system, here on YouTube, so you can later go ahead and check that one out. But for now, let's import our logo from Illustrator, and to do that, you go to File, Open, and we navigate to where we save our logo at, and we choose we select it and open it. We'll go ahead and leave everything as default and hit OK. Now we can actually orbit our scene, zoom out and orbit, and you can see we don't have the logo in the middle, so I can just select the null object and make sure it's everything is 0 on the coordinates, and now the logo is somewhere in the middle of the scene. The next thing is we are going to create extrude, and to create extrude, we come to create generators and you choose extrude. So we are going to extrude our logo. That's, we are going to give it geometry or mesh or polygons. Right now it's just splines, so I'll select all the splines and make it a child of the extrude object. I'll go ahead and delete the null object and select the extrude object, come to where it says object and choose hierarchical. That means everything under the extrude object will be affected. Now we have our logo extruded, but it's quite small in the scene. For instance, if I should create a cube, something for you to compare it to, I'll zoom out and I'll move the cube on the side, and you can see the logo is very small. So I'll select it and I'll actually make it bigger by scaling it. So I'll use the scale tool to scale it more, and I think now it's a bit okay for us. So I can go ahead and delete the cube, and it's a bit thicker. If I should orbit around, you can see it's too long for the depth is too long. So I'll come to object movement and I'll make sure it's just like 80 centimeters for now. So we have our logo extruded. Can come to its caps to make the edges a bit round, so come to cut and change it to fillet cap. And make sure it's about 3 or 4 in the radius. Let me leave it at 3, and make the steps thing 6 and 6 will be fine to make it smoother. So if I should leave the steps 1, you can see it gives it like a sharp kind of edge, but like the more you increase it, it makes it smoother. So 6 will be fine. So now we have our logo extruded. One thing I don't like is the 3. I think it's too thick, and it's not like, you can't read it, it's not really visible. So I want the TV3 to actually show properly. So what I'll do is I'll select the cube, come to this icon where it says make editable, and I'll click on it, and what it will actually do is make it editable, and all of the lines will have their individual extrude object. So now the TV3 all have their extrude object. So I'll select the 3 and I'll come to its movement, actually reduce it to 30, and come to the caps again and click on constrain to constrain the the caps to the text itself, so that I wouldn't gain extra size or anything. So now we have our logo extruded, and the next thing we have to save it. So I'll go to File, Save, and it will take us to where we actually open our Illustrator file, and you can leave it just as it is, or you can name it however you want it and hit save. Now we have our file saved. The next thing is you are going to create a camera, and to create a camera you can come to create, where it says camera, and choose any other camera, any of the cameras, or you can come straight here and choose from here directly on the viewport. So now I have a camera created. I'll click on this black icon here, and when it turns white, it means we are looking in our camera. Make sure our camera is selected and come to its attribute manager, the coordinates, and make sure everything is zeroed out except the position on Z. So everything is 0 except the position on Z, and that one I'll leave it at minus, let's say 1005 for now. So now we have our camera created and our logo in the scene, and if you can see, the logo is not really in the center of the scene. What I want is I want the circle to be right in the center of the scene. So I'll do that. How I'm going to do that, I'll make the circle, which is this one, make it the parent object. So I'll select all of this, all of the elements, and make the child of this one the circle. Select everything and make it the child of the circle. And now if we select the circle's coordinate and make sure the circle, everything is 0, so it basically moves with all the children to the center. So now we have it in the center of our scene, and I'll select all of the elements except the spline of the circle and drag it out. Select the circle itself and drag it out. Now I can go ahead and delete this null object, and now we have our scene in the middle the way we want it. So the next thing is I'm going to create, in the original video, the logo, the circle or the yellow part of the circle was actually made of slice, about 6 slices. So we are going to create that, and we do that by simply coming to object in here. I'll choose tube and select the tube, come to its orientation and make it minus Z. Make sure the inner radius is 0, and I actually can scale it to fit the middle of the circle. All you can do is click on this icon here, and it will give us 4 different views: top, right, and the front. We want the front view, and we click on this to make it bigger. So now we see how big our slice is. So I think it's okay now. So we can click on that same icons to get back, and now what you do is you come to the tube, slice, enable slice, and you can use the to and from to actually make it the slice how we want it. So I'll make it 60 on the 2, and now we can actually go ahead and hide the circle that we have. We can actually disable it, even delete it if we want. So now I have one of the slides created. Come to More Graph, Clone, and make the tube a child of the clone. And what it does, it clones it 3 times linearly going up. I'll come to the clone attribute manager object, and I'll change it to radial. Make sure the radius is 0, and I'll increase the count to 6. So now we have 6 slices that forms the circle of the logo. And you can go in as well and smoothing the edges. So I'll click on the camera icon here again to get out of the camera so that we can actually get closer. And now select, make sure the tube is selected, come to its object, and the fillet, we choose fillet, and we can make that one to 3 like we did with the other ones, and I'll leave this one 6, same as the other ones. So now we have a smooth or round edges for the middle part. I can click and go back into my camera, and now we have our logo created the way we want it. The next thing is you go ahead and give it materials, and materials is basically giving it colors. So to create a material, you come to down here to the material attribute and come to create new material. Double click on it, and it opens a material editor. This is where we change the colors, reflection, and everything about the material. So we'll go ahead and give it color. So I'll start by creating the colors. Red, so select the color, can navigate and create the red we want. Or what you can actually do is click on this color from picture icon here, and we can navigate to where we have the original TV3 logo we used as a reference image in Illustrator, so that we can sample the colors directly. So I'll click on it, and it will bring, you come here, open it, and now we can now sample the colors. So I'll come straight here, make sure this dot here, drag and drop it to the color I want to choose, and now it creates our red. I'll go ahead and close it. We can just double click here and create a new material. Same way, double click on it to open it, and now we can sample the middle one, and now we have our yellow created. We can also create another one by just holding Control and clicking and dragging, and it will create a copy of what we have already. So I'll double click on it, that one as well, and come into the color picker and choose green. I'll hit OK. So now we have our 3 colors created. And to apply the material or color to the object is simply dragging and drop. So I'll drag and drop. This is the green right in the viewport. I can also do it the same. I'm using the red right now, so this is the red. I can select, click, and drag and drop it on it in the object manager. And now the yellow, same way, can drop it in the viewport. So basically the next thing is to create the black part, and the black part, double click to create a new one. Come to colors. This time we don't need this thing again, so I'll just click back on the icon and it will go back to its default state. And the next thing is I'll choose the black color from here, and I'll drag that one and drop it straight onto the colors here. So whilst I have it here, I can actually hold Control and click and drag it. It duplicates it and to the other one. Here I can click Control and drag it, and it duplicate it on the other object. So now we have our logo created, our materials added. We'll go ahead and later add reflections and stuff to the material, but now we have everything, the basic of our logo created and the materials also created. Now we can go ahead and add light and adjust our materials properties. So to create light in my 4D, we can go in here, we'll create and light, and there are several lights and each of them have what they do, but in this case I'm going to use area light. So I'll get out of the camera so that I can actually position the light well. The area light is just like a rectangle, and it's a directional light which looks like, so I'll make it a bit longer here, and I'll rotate it a little bit. I'll rotate it this way, and I'll move it up. So let's see what we have. So I'll click back into my camera, render. I think it's okay. I'll increase the light intensity in the attribute manager, make it maybe 101, and I'll go to its shadow properties and enable aerial shadow. So now it casts shadow. The next thing is I'll come to details and come to where it says show in reflection. I'll make sure that one is checked so that when we add reflection to the material, it will reflect the light. One little thing I want to do here is, when I look at the circle part of the logo, it sort of moves, as in it's in a bit forward than the other part of the logo. So I'll just select and move it back so that it aligns with the rest of the logo, so that it doesn't cast shadow on the other part of the logo that we don't want. So now we've created our light, and this is our top light. Let's actually go ahead and start naming our object. So I'll call this red, press the down button, and I'll choose this one green, double click on. So this one we're not going to use it, so we can actually delete it, and I'll call the clonal object yellow. So now we name our sim. So we can name our light, I'll say top, and we actually can duplicate it. So I'll hold Control and drag and drop it to create another copy, and I'll call this, move it on the opposite direction. So I'll put minus here, and I'll bring it down and in the rotation to same. So I'll take off the minus here so that we'll flip it automatic, like, so it will be like an opposite light. So one light up here, one light down here facing the logo. So now let's see what we have. I mean, there's not much that we can see. So the next is actually start adjusting our material properties. So I'll start with the red, double click on it, come to its reflectance, and I'll come to add. I'll add backman, and I'll make sure layer, this one, layer 1 is selected. I'll change the attenuation to additive, which means it's adding to the color red, and I'll reduce the reflection strength. I'll take off the specular strength, and I'll increase the roughness to, let's say, I think 10 will be fine. I can come to the layer color and choose Fresnel, and maybe reduce down to like 70 or something. And now let's render to see what we have. Not much. So let's adjust the light so that I can actually start hitting the color so that we can see what something reflection. Let's see. So now you can see it's beginning to, we are beginning to see some slight highlights, white highlights at the top here. So meaning it's beginning to catch the reflection. Let's actually check the details and make sure, yeah, showing reflection is checked. So now we can still come in again, position it a little bit more, make it a bit wider. See what we have. Yeah, now I can see it's beginning to catch the reflection. So the down one too, I mean, I can, that one we don't need to do much, you just can make it, it's just filling in the shadows. So that one I can come to general and reduce the intensity 80, and let's see what we have. I mean, it's a bit better. I can adjust it, move it up a bit more. I think I like it so far. So one thing we are going to add is we are going to add a global illumination. So what we do is come to here where it says and choose sky object. All right, and now come to our content browser. We can search for HDRI here, type in HDRI, and you can hit search. I'll choose this one, Photo Studio, and I'll bring it to Cinema 4D. If you don't have this, the content browser, you can actually search online for HDRI images, and you can use either of them. So now I'll drag and drop it on the sky object, and we want the HDRI material to show in reflection and also add to lighting, but we don't want it to show in camera. We don't want to see it. So I'll right click and go to Cinema 4D up tags, and I'll add compositing. Then I'll tell it shouldn't be seen in camera. So seen in camera, I'll uncheck it. Now we can render, and not much has happened. So the next is going to add our global illumination. I'll come to effects, basically click on our render settings and come to effects, and we choose global illumination, and we leave it as default, nothing much. And let's render to see what we have. Now you can see the scene looks a bit brighter and cleaner. Yeah, so you can go ahead and still adjust our lights. Yeah, so okay, what actually the mistake I'm doing is the down one doesn't have any reflection, the yellow and the green. So now that we are cool with the red, you can just simply double click on the red, go to the reflectance, the layers, and make sure we right click on the layer 1 and copy it. Select the green one, right click here and say paste, and you paste the reflection settings we did in the red to the green. So now if you should render, see now, yeah, it has effect. Now the light have effect in the green, so we can actually, yeah, I think it's cool now. So I'll do same, double click on the yellow one, come to the reflectance and paste this one here as well. Let's see what we have. I think we are cool. And the same thing for the black. I'll paste it, but for the black I'll adjust it a bit. I'll reduce the roughness and probably increase the intensity, and also reduce the Fresnel strength a bit more, I think. Yeah, that will be okay for the black. And now we are basically good to go. Yeah, I'll adjust the black a little bit more. I think I should increase the Fresnel, reduce the intensity, and reduce the roughness. And now, yeah, I think we are a bit okay to go. We like the lightning. This is just a basic, simple lightning of the logo. So now we are good to go, and as we go on, we can adjust things if we want. So you should be able to create your logo in Illustrator using basic shapes. Export it in the format Cinema 4D can recognize. Bring it into Cinema 4D and extrude it. Add material and add light. We will continue by animating using keyframe and MoGraph effectors and render it in the second part of this video.